Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. What next for Raila Amolo Odinga? That's the question which most Kenyans are currently asking. And if you ask me, this was the best chance for Raila Amolo Odinga. Raila Odinga had the support of the deep state. Raila Odinga had the support of the mountain. For the first time, Raila Odinga got over 1 million votes from the mountain. But still, William Ruto managed to outweigh him. And today, the Supreme Court upheld the election of William Ruto as the President of the Republic of Kenya, which means it's now done deal. Raila Odinga is not going to be the next president for the next 5 years. And personally, I don't think Raila Odinga will have another chance after 5 good years. But again, in politics, you can't rule out any possibility. But what next for Raila Amolo Odinga? I paid very close attention to William Ruto's speech, which I'm going to do a comprehensive analysis tomorrow. And William Ruto is very clear on one thing. He's not ready for the handshake. That's one. Number two, William Ruto, it's a bit raining. Let me just enjoy it. William Ruto is also very clear that he's going to raid the Azimio team because some of the people who were elected on Azimio were actually elected there because of the pressure from the deep state. William Ruto was also very clear that President Uhuru Kenyatta has not called him, and therefore he's going to call the president to see how they are going to deal with the issue of transition. And the tone of that particular message, in my view, was telling the deputy president is setting the pace for his presidency. And he also put on notice Citizen TV and Inoro TV. But let us not get into that. What next for Raila Amolo Odinga? That's what I want us to look at now. And for those who normally support this channel, we are going to have live show today. And I want it to be kind of interactive the way we normally have. But one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to change the direction of this channel. We are still going to discuss politics and the way they emerge. I know I had predicted that Raila Odinga was going to win. The truth of the matter, I believed, and I was wrong, that Raila Odinga was going to win. And you all agree that the difference between Raila and Ruto was only 200,000. But for me, just like Orengo and the rest, maybe, just maybe. Now, let me begin this video by looking at the statement which Raila Odinga Secretariat has issued. The statement reads, Statement on Court Ruling. It says, we have taken note of the decision of the Supreme Court on the presidential election held on the 9th August 2022. We have always stood for the rule of law and constitution. In this regard, we respect the opinion of the court, although vehemently disagree with their decision today. So basically, Raila Odinga has conceded, he has accepted the verdict of the court, but he has disagreed with him. This statement is similar to the position taken by James Agri Orengo, that they are disagreeing with the decision, but they are going to accept. It continues, our lawyers proffered irrefutable evidence and the facts were on our side. Unfortunately, the judges saw it otherwise. We find it incredible that the judges found against us on all 9 grounds and occasions resulted to unduly exaggerated language to refute our claims. You remember, the judges even referred to some of their evidences as forged. And, you know, it's just funny, the statement which were used. It continues, this judgment is by no means the end of our movement. In fact, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to transform this country into a prosperous democracy where each and every Kenyan can find their full belonging. We thank our supporters and Kenyans across the country for standing with us. We will be communicating in the near future our plans to continue our struggle for transparency, accountability, and democracy. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Raila Amolo Odinga. So based on this, it means Raila Odinga has plans moving forward. But for me, I want us to look at what next for Raila Amolo Odinga. Before we do that, in case you're watching the channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. What next for Raila Amolo Odinga? That is the question which I want us to try and answer. And by the way, a lot of you guys have expressed their fears that probably with the election of William Ruto as the President of the Republic of Kenya, that my life is actually in danger. And I just want to read one message which I received from a gentleman. I'm not going to read the first part. He's saying, number 2, you had better be careful in criticizing Ruto from now. Ruto has no morals and will not stop attending people to accost you at your home whenever you will be. Just a caution. You tumetoka mbali na wewe. Be well. So this is someone who is just warning me. And I listened to Ruto and he's assured us that everything will be okay. He will be willing to accept people who will be criticizing him and also those who will be working for him. I don't think for now I'm going to change the direction of this channel. Now, what next for Raila Odinga? Number 1, the first thing which Raila Odinga should do is to push for more reforms. If Raila Odinga will be remembered in this country, of course, right now people can mock him, but once Raila Odinga will leave this world, he will be remembered for reforms. At least in this country, when you talk of reforms, and even Ruto mentioned it, if you talk of reforms, the name Raila Odinga is littered all over. So the best thing he can do to the country is to continue pushing for reforms. I've read and I've seen most people saying that Raila Odinga should let Kenyans learn the tough lessons. Of course, he can do that, but for his own sake, he must continue fighting for reforms. Kenyans will remember him. One of the areas he needs to put emphasis on is electoral reforms. For those who've been on this channel, one of the mistakes which I've always highlighted, which Raila Odinga committed, was failure after the handshake to push for electoral reforms. That's an area he needs to do. Like, for example, we're waiting for the Supreme Court full judgment, but one of the questions which came forth was whether Wafula Chebukati was right to just make that announcement alone. Those ones must be entrenched in the Constitution, because tomorrow we will have a chairman of the IBC who will just decide to read a totally different result and nothing will happen. So Raila Odinga must continue pushing for that. Although most people feel that he has fought enough for Kenya and therefore Kenyans must pay for for their own for their own omissions. Number 2, and I think this is also one of the best, I think Raila Odinga should take a break from active politics. He can offer guidance, but take a break from active politics. If it's ODM, he can still become the leader of ODM party, but let the day-to-day management and running of the affairs of that party to say Hassan Joho, to say Oparanya, or to say any other person. If it will be about Azimio, then maybe he can hand over the Azimio thing to Kalonzo Musyoka. Personally, I'll be supporting Kalonzo Musyoka moving forward anyway, unless he will not be supportable. But for me, because I've always said on this platform that apart from Raila, the next person I can easily support for the presidency in this country is Kalonzo Musyoka. So if he's planning to retire, he can leave Kalonzo Musyoka to take charge while offering that guidance from the background. So Raila Odinga can actually retire without and stop participating actively in politics. You know, like one of the reasons why I supported the handshake, and I've always stated it here, was because I felt that Raila Odinga was now old enough to continue being on the street fighting for Kenyans. But of course, it had a big impact on this particular election. Number 3, I think Raila Odinga can also still, being someone who is highly respected across the country, across Africa, across the world, he can continue with his engagement at the international front. For example, he was the high representative for infrastructure for Africa Union. So I tend to think that Raila Odinga can now focus more on those roles rather than coming back here to dwell with the politics of Kenya, which in most cases people don't even appreciate. So if I were to advise Raila Odinga, I would advise him to continue and put more effort on those international engagements, probably participate in international politics in Africa or even beyond. So for me, that would be something which is good for him, if you ask me, so that he can forget about this Kenyan politics, which most people really don't appreciate. And number 4, in my view, the 4th thing he can do is to continue providing leadership to Azimio team. Because one of the roles of the opposition is basically to provide oversight. And William Ruto is very clear, very, very clear in his mind. And I'm not saying just this, he stated it. It's very clear that he's going to allow the opposition to work, but he's going to raid them. It's going to be very difficult to do oversight Ruto, because one of the things I know he's going to succeed on is to bring more members of parliament to his side. And the fact that he's now the president, majority of members of parliament, majority of senators will actually shift camps to his side. But Raila Odinga can decide that, okay, this is the direction we are going to take as Azimio. We are going to play our roles, and then he can provide that leadership to the Azimio team, especially in parliament and outside parliament. That's also a good way for him. And lastly, I think Raila Odinga can now start mentoring the next presidential candidates for Azimio. He must start mentoring new leaders. Having that experience, he can now identify leaders whom he thinks can take over from him. And with a good guidance, I know, based on what William Ruto promised people, my own prediction is that he might not achieve much, especially considering the economy, considering the COVID ravages and the rest, and the expectations of Kenyans. You know, sometimes when you give people high expectations, the outcome is that when you don't meet those, they normally change. And that's why Jubilee found it very difficult in the first term of their regime. So Raila Odinga should start mentoring the new leaders within Azimio, offer guidance. Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, they can identify a team, start preparing them for the next election, because already they know where the weaknesses are. And maybe lastly, focus on devolution. Raila Odinga should now focus on devolution. In Nyanza, for example, he should focus on devolution, so that the 4 counties of Nyanza, or 6 counties of Nyanza for that matter, succeeds. Because without Raila Odinga at the national level, I don't think much is going to happen on the ground here at the national level. But because devolution is there, because resources are devolved, I tend to think that if he were to focus especially on the elected leaders from Nyanza, from Coast, on Azimio, appeal to Kalonzo Musyoka to also just focus on devolution. Devolution alone is enough to make Raila Odinga's strongholds comfortable. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Thank you guys. Until next time. And please let us meet at 8 so that we can just discuss. You know, most people are still in pain. I'm personally in pain. Let us meet at that time. We cry together. I've seen those who are supporting Ruto on this channel, some of them are leaving. It's okay, but we are going to proceed. We are going to proceed. We are going to continue with the analysis. I know within the last 2 years we've been in existence, we've really made this channel good for you. You guys have enjoyed politics, both sides, whether those who support Ruto, those who don't support Ruto. We've enjoyed politics together, and we are going to continue this way. When I began this channel, it was about analyzing things from a different perspective. That will not change. Thank you guys. Until next time, this is Makwiny. Bye-bye.